following podcast may not be for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
When you think of the Mistress of the Dark, I bet your first thought is Elvira, with her tight black dress, raven hair, and wicked wit. Cassandra Peterson's iconic character has become synonymous with spooky camp and gothic glamour. But what if I told you she wasn't the first Mistress of the Dark? Before Elvira sank her fangs into the hearts of fans everywhere, there was another Queen of the Night, a Finnish actress named Maila Nurmi, and her unforgettable character, Vampira. Join me as I delve into the unexplained realms and journey through the life and times of the original Mistress of the Dark. Maila Nurmi was born in Gloucester, Massachusetts on December 11, 1922. Her father, Ani, was a Finnish immigrant, and her mother, Sophia, an American with Finnish descent. Her father pursued a career in journalism and often moved the family. By the time Maila had graduated from high school, she was living with her family in the quaint coastal town of Astoria, Oregon. Astoria, Oregon is known for its breathtaking views and as the filming site of the iconic 1985 film, The Goonies. It is a port city, the oldest in the state of Oregon, founded in 1811, and had a large Finnish community at that time. Fishing and fish processing were a large part of Astoria's economy. But as a new high school graduate, Maila had no desire to take work on in the local fish canneries. Her heart was set on a life in Los Angeles. It was 1940, and she was new to the world as a young adult. So she moved to Los Angeles to pursue her dream of acting. In addition to acting, Maila began to model, particularly for Broadway of Hollywood, who had also worked with Marilyn Monroe. In time, Maila moved to New York and landed a part in a Broadway show. The show was titled Catherine Was Great. She performed alongside Mae West. Unfortunately, Mae West felt she was being upstaged by Maila and had her fired. Regaining her footing on Broadway, by December 1944, Maila had gained a part in the Broadway special Spook Scandals. Spook Scandals was a horror-themed Broadway show. Maila would seductively lurk in a cemetery on stage, scream, faint, and lie in a coffin. Maila's performance gained a large amount of attention, but the show closed after only 2 performances. This performance seemingly opened a path to her future as Vampira, but that was yet to be seen. In 1947, Maila broke her way into film. Though an uncredited role, the movie was titled If Winter Comes. After this film, she continued on in show business in various forms. She worked as a showgirl at the Earl Carroll Theater, and later as a chorus line dancer at Florentine Gardens. To survive, she embraced various jobs to keep herself afloat, working as a hat check girl on Hollywood's Sunset Strip or a photographer's assistant, and at times bit parts in various films, as well as posing for pinup photos in men's magazines. Her curves tantalizing on the glossy pages of the magazines, such as Famous Models, Gala, and Glamorous Models. During this time, Maila had a brief liaison with Orson Welles, the American director, actor, and magician. It is said that the two had a child together, but chose to give it up for adoption. There's no proof of this birth, but it's discussed in the book written by Maila's niece. Those who were close to Maila knew she loved the dark and macabre. But it wouldn't be until 1953 that this was truly seen. Invited to attend a costume ball, she fashioned her costume after some of Charles Addams' cartoon characters. Charles Addams was an American cartoonist who created dark humor characters. Later, some of his characters would become the Addams Family. At this time, Maila enjoyed his cartoons and dressed as a dark goddess, wearing a tight black dress with a plunging neckline and long black hair, imitating the character in Addams' comic strip. She attended the ball with her husband, Dean Reisner. She was hoping to gain some attention with her dark costume. She turned heads all evening long, but one particular person was mesmerized. TV producer Hunt Stromberg Jr. was searching for a late-night host for his horror television show. The shows weren't the greatest, but he felt that they would be more engaging to an audience with the right host. Maila embraced the opportunity and created her iconic character, Vampira. When creating the character, she was influenced by the evil queen from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and the dragon lady from the Terry and Pirates comics. The late-night show Maila would be hosting was called Nightmare Attic, but was renamed The Vampira Show. It was first aired on May 1st, 1954. The opening scene shows Vampira walking slowly through a misty, cobweb-covered hallway. Once in front of the camera, she lets out a blood-curdling scream. After the scream, she says, "Screaming relaxes me so." Then her dark commentary would go something like this. "I went to a delightful funeral yesterday. We buried a friend of mine, alive." She would always deliver this deliciously dark commentary while sipping on a cocktail. For example, she would introduce the Mortician's Martini, which included 1 part formaldehyde, 1 part rattlesnake venom, a dash of culture blood, and garnished with an eyeball. Vampira became an immediate hit, appearing with a black wig, a tattered black dress with a deep neckline, arched eyebrows, the perfect hourglass figure, and 3-inch long claw nails. Throughout the show, she would lie barefoot on her Victorian sofa, which was decorated with human skulls. She would chat with unseen ghosts around her or have conversations with her pet spider named Rollo. She introduced B-rated movies such as The 13th Guest, starring Ginger Rogers, or The Corpse Vanishes. With the overnight success of The Vampira Show, Maila was featured on the covers of TV Guide, Newsweek, and many other major publications. She would often stay dressed as Vampira to drive around Hollywood in the back of her 1932 Packard touring car. With the convertible top open, she would wave to fans and confused onlookers. Her fans came from near and far, and some were shocking to us all. One particular well-known fan even guest starred on the show, James Dean. Of course, it was before he became famous. He had his back turned in the episode, and Vampira portrayed an angry teacher. Maila and James Dean were friends before his fame. The two met in Los Angeles and would often spend time together. Some would say they were best friends. It is said that Maila would visit the Rebel Without a Cause set, the movie that made Dean a film sensation. While The Vampira Show was a huge hit, it was canceled in 1955. Maila was asked to sell the rights to her character Vampira. She refused, and the show was canceled. However, the character briefly revived when she took it to another TV station. Losing the show and then losing her best friend, James Dean, Maila suffered incredibly from the loss. Maila also suffered from stalkers during this time. A crazed fan assaulted her in public. The media believed it to be a publicity stunt. And later, she was nearly murdered by another crazed fan in her own apartment. She fought back against her attacker and survived. But once again, the media and press believed this to be just a publicity stunt. In the years after the Vampira show, Maila made a guest appearance as Vampira and had a few film roles outside of the character. One of her more famous performances was in the Ed Wood movie Plan 9 from Outer Space, where her character was named Vampire Girl. In 1981, Maila was in negotiations to reboot the Vampira show, but the project went in a different direction, and the network created The Elvira Show starring Cassandra Peterson. Maila later sued for copyright infringement, but didn't win. She eventually left her acting career behind and worked various jobs. By 1960, she opened an antique shop called Vampira's Attic. Maila made handmade jewelry and clothing for celebrities. At times, famous friends such as Marlon Brando would assist her financially and pay her phone bill. In 2001, Maila was 79 years old. She would sell portraits she painted as well as other autographed memorabilia just to keep herself financially afloat. On January 10, 2008, Maila Nurmi passed from natural causes in her apartment. Her niece, Sandra Niemi, made the final arrangements for her aunt and began to clear out the apartment. While clearing the apartment, it was obvious that Maila lived in poverty. But Sandra found pieces of an autobiography her aunt had begun to write. She went on to piece it together and published the book Glamour Ghoul, The Passions and Pain of the Real Vampira. Finally, Maila and the character of Vampira would obtain the fame she deserved. I'm a Vampira superfan. No disrespect to all the other spooky queens, but Vampira was my all-time favorite. There's so much more detail to her story. She was strong-minded and held to her beliefs, refusing to succumb to the aesthetic that Hollywood prescribes to celebrities. This may be why she didn't see huge success. Though holding firm to the rights to her created character may have pissed off some people, further hindering her career. Though this was a time that didn't show married couples in the same bed, perhaps the world simply wasn't ready for her. Today, Vampira remains a beloved cult figure, a true original in the pantheon of mistresses of the dark. The first, the freakiest, and the most fascinating of all the vampire vixens, a true queen of the night. This is where I bid you farewell. Remember, in the shadows, Vampira reigns supreme. So as you wander into the night, maybe you'll feel her eternal presence. Or perhaps, if you're unlucky enough, you might catch a glimpse of her unsettling companion, Rollo, the spider, lurking in the corner of your eye.